So let me share my screen. So hi everyone. Thanks for folks who are able to join this Friday morning, as well as people who can watch this recording later on YouTube. So this is Multimodal Weekly, which is as the name suggests, a weekly virtual webinar series hosted by the team at Toll Labs. And then for those of you who are new, want to learn more about our company, we and a Series A startup focused on building multimodal video understanding foundation models. We've been meeting on a weekly basis, over the past 1 year and a half. This is webinar number 69. So, we've been doing it for a long time. Here's some of the topics that we tend to cover on a weekly basis. Since this field is moving very fast, I tend to ask researchers come in and give their talks on the latest research in the field of multimodal AI and foundation models. Oftentimes, we also have developers and startup founders, such as the presenters today, who will come in and talk about innovative application of multimodals in different verticals, as well as different projects that they build on various engagement. And then finally, oftentimes we have internal team members come in and give talks on how to use our platform and technology. Here are some of the recent sessions that we have on Multimodal Weekly. We have internal team members talking about evaluation for video foundation models, working with our embeddings API. The last two sessions was more on the research side, where we have researchers coming in and talk about multimodal video models, evaluation, benchmarking, reasoning framework, generating styles from videos, etc. So for today's session, we have two presentations, and both of them are actually leveraging Toll Labs technology in some form or another. The first presentation will come from Daniel Jacobs and Tobias Finkelstein, which is the CEO and COO of SeekSequence. And based on the description, SeekSequence is a premium plugin for video editors. It has the search and discover features that you can go through to upload a video, browse through it easily, get inspired, and edit directly in Premiere. And the platform uses Toll Labs on the backend for search. So if users already have videos in Toll Labs, they can easily integrate it and start editing. Very excited to hear about this talk. I think we've been thinking a lot about bringing our tools to bigger platform like Adobe. So curious to hear how Daniel and Tobias has built it themselves. And the second part of the webinar will be Daniel, Ritchie and Thienthanh Trinh. They're going to give a talk about a recent project that they built at a hackathon called Satisfy. This is a unified development experience for exploring AI agents and curating your own videos. The project is open source. There's a GitHub link to it, which I will put on the show notes. It's built on top of NVIDIA AI Workbench, Toll Labs API, and our internal open source video agent framework called Jockey. Daniel has been a great early tester and builders about technology. So super excited to hear more about the process that he take on into the build this. That's a quick introduction about the speakers. Just one slide on the logistical note for our attendees. Feel free to send your question in Zoom chat, and then we'll have a short 5 minutes Q&A session after each speaker finish. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and I will unmute Daniel, Jacobs, and Tobias. So you guys feel free to start share screen and go ahead with the presentation.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for the lovely introduction. Let me just share my screen here. We'll get started. Great. So hi, I'm Daniel. I'm one of the co-founders of SeekSequence.com, along with my good friend and co-founder Tobias. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about SeekSequence. I'm going to tell you what problem it solves, why we built it, and some of the story that came along the way, so that you can be familiar with that. And then we'll show you a demo of the product so you can really see what it is we're doing. The fundamental premise of SeekSequence is it uses 12 labs and Premiere together to help you edit your video faster. The sort of driving question, the problem I think we were setting out to solve when we started working on this about a year ago is how can you make video with the footage that you have in a tool that you are already familiar with? Because that was a problem we were running into. And I think the sort of thing that I think maybe a lot of people on this call, in one way or another, are either having that problem, or especially if you're working in research or technology and working with 12 labs, you might be working with someone who just has a lot of footage and maybe would like to edit it and work with it and start telling stories with it. And we're trying to make it a little easier. The way we got started with it, like the inspiration for this, is we had set out to make a documentary film several years ago. We traveled to the desert in Central California. We got to know a bunch of people out there, filmed 50 interviews and a lot of B-roll, and we're trying to like tell a story with that B-roll. And we were editing with the technology of the time, what was available for 2 years ago. And the way to do that was to sit there, watch all 50 hours of our video, and like annotate clip by clip, like what's good, what's not good, and then to categorize that all in Premiere. And to do all of that before we could even get started, like thinking about the interesting part, which is like, what's the story? What are we trying to communicate? And how are we going to move these clips together into something interesting? And that's a problem, I think, throughout the industry, especially in documentary film, but in a lot of other places too. You have a lot of footage and you need to cut it down and tell a story with it. And what a lot of people do is will either hire an assistant editor to go log it and organize it in Premiere, or manually just sit there and do it, which can take a long time. And we can show you in a little bit like what a how we can solve that and what a more organized project will look like once you've done all that logging. So our fundamental problem is, if you have 100 hours of footage, how do you find the good shots? How do you organize it so that when you're ready to do your storytelling, you can just hop into the storytelling and you're not spending a ton of time organizing and browsing through stuff. I guess a year or two ago, or I can't remember exactly when this is when we discovered 12 Labs. Started taking a look at it, joined a very nice hackathon, just to see what the technology was. And immediately the thing that came to mind was like, this could be really good for logging this footage and getting it organized so we can start to like edit and tell stories. So at that point, we started playing around with the technology, seeing what it could do, and particularly taking a long look at the search functionality, how it was able to we were able to upload all of our video, or good chunks of our video, and start like finding interesting clips within there and starting to like organize it. That was cool. The things, so the ability to find clips was amazing. The ability to discover stuff was really cool. The problem we ran into with 12 Labs at the time was there wasn't an easy way for us to then take our search results and start editing them and like actually using the results. So it was cool. You could go into 12 Labs, you could find a clip that you wanted, but you couldn't, like, we'd have to go write down the time code, then copy that time code into Premiere so we could edit. And it wasn't a scalable thing. We had also, around that same time, been dabbling with various Premiere plugins, trying to build different technology. We had worked on something to try to synchronize audio and video, which is still an active and open problem and really valuable, I think, to a lot of people. Realized, like, maybe a good thing to do and a good thing to try is just to take 12 Labs search and just combine it with a Premiere front end so that you can, search where your video is and then immediately be able to like edit on the timeline in the way that you're used to. So we set out to do that after many iterations. We had just to tell a little bit more about the journey. We had earlier tried to build something on the web, tried to build like a separate video editor, and just found it was really difficult. And I think the cool thing about Premiere is like it already does the editing part, so we could focus more on the novel parts, which is search, and then like discovery. How do you find new footage in what's out there? So what we ended up building is we have a plugin in Premiere. So this is like the Premiere interface if you haven't seen it. and we'll go into more detail in a minute, but I just wanted to give you a high-level overview. We have a little plugin here where you can type in your search. And the main problems that we're solving is how do you upload footage? How do you get things into Premiere? Because you've got to upload it to 12 Labs. Sometimes, one feature we supported is like, how do you upload something that does not have video yet? So if you have done an edit in Premiere, there's no underlying data behind it. There's no video you can upload to Premiere. So we have some functionality where you can like transcode it and then send it up. And then our other main features, how do you discover footage? So if you have your big 50 hours of footage, how do you start to browse through it and like pick good, interesting points if you don't necessarily know what's in there to begin with? Finally, of course, how do you search? How do you find clips? And how do you put them on the timeline? And I went through that very quickly because I'm going to let Tobias, if you're ready, just do a demo.
Yes, I am ready. Hello, everyone. And I will now try to demo. I don't seem to have share access. Let me try. There we go. Okay. Daniel, can you see Premiere?
I can see Premiere, yes.
Great. Okay, cool. So this is our plugin, SeekSequence, right here. For those of you who aren't users of Adobe Premiere, this is a typical what they call NLE, non-linear editor, very standard way of professionally editing video these days. And our process is essentially divided into 3 steps. Upload, which is essentially technical. That's the way that we get the user's media up into 12 Labs so that it can be parsed. Discover, which is where the user inputs basically requests, which we'll do in a second, into the system, and search where the system will return relevant media based on the search. So just very quickly, upload, like I said, is more or less technical. This is an organizational step where the plugin checks to make sure media can be processed by 12 Labs, and if it can be processed by 12 Labs, it accepts it, uploads it, and then checks the status of its ingestion into 12 Labs. Discover is where some really interesting things happen. So this is the point where the user really interacts with the system. And we've set up a number of ways to invite the user to first put information into the process. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 suggestions here are essentially templatized versions of common video formats: documentary, interview, advertisement, TikTok video, narrative, and hero's journey. Alternatively, the input can be drawn from a video itself or from a based PDF. So you can imagine that being very powerful for operations where there's a script or brief or even emails amongst creatives and producers and so forth regarding what they want out of the video. In this case, I'm going to start from a video. When we click on that, you can see I've uploaded 3 test clips here. One is an interview between the Coen brothers and Charlie Rose, and the other 2 are basketball videos from the New York Knicks. We've got here ways that the system can parse the video for a summary of information, either by audio or video. In this case, I'm going to do audio. We hit create selects, and the AI takes a good guess at summarizing what's in this media and then suggesting unique search terms based on that summary of the video. In this case, they're talking about No Country for Old Men as in this promotional interview. So that's what the suggestions focus on. So that is the first return. In the right, I'll just quickly point out, because I know we have limited time, but we've got a sort of rating system based on the confidence that the AI feels the returns are precise and accurate. You can also change the search terms. You can delete, add, or edit these search terms. You can also paste a whole bunch of rows from some text-based document. And you can preview them in what's called the source monitor. You can bring any one of these clips up into the source monitor, watch it, and decide if you like it. And then very, very powerfully, this is really where you're going to see a lot of efficiency between all the work 12 Labs is doing and the editor actually sitting in Premiere. You can insert these clips directly into the timeline one by one, just like that. And now these are ready to use. We can move them around, we can delete them, we can duplicate them, we can do all the things that editors need to do. Alternatively, if an editor likes to work in the timeline, which is very common, you can simply insert all of the batches one by one into the timeline and work with it directly. This is a very fundamental and common way of doing video organization that pre-12 Labs would have taken days easily to parse all this video, organize it, lay it into a timeline so that an editor can usefully edit it. And then I'll just show you one last thing before I wrap up and let the mic go back to Dan. The way that the search is organized is such that within folders or indices, we can put multiple videos. So say, for example, it's a little bit silly in this example, but you can imagine one where it'd be more relevant. If for some reason I wanted some of those New York Knicks clips back in there, we can regenerate the selects and we'll get combined returns from both the Coen brothers interview and the New York Knicks stuff, which for documentaries and large collections of media, this could be very valuable, right? Where like there's a lot of media that maybe wasn't organized perfectly on set in a sanitized way, and you maybe have a client who's got iPhone footage and GoPro footage and professionally shot footage, and it's all sort of clustered together, disorganized. You can very efficiently search through all of it, get exactly what you need, and start working. So that is that. Dan, did I miss anything?
Can you show off the filters a little bit? The medium.
Yeah. So here we've got a filter that will change the confidence threshold for the returns. So if like we only want the clips that the system is confident are correct, we can raise that threshold, in which case we only get 7 basketball shots, or we can say we want to be more generous and lower the threshold, in which case we get 48 shots, which can again be very valuable if you're dealing with like large amounts of footage and you don't want to sit there. A documentary could easily have 300 hours of footage on the first day of editing that needs to be parsed, and so those kinds of filters can be really valuable. All right, that's what I got. Dan, anything else we should get in there?
That's great. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks everyone for letting us share.
Oh, okay, got it. That's the end of the talk, right?
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, so I'll open the floor for the attendees if you guys want to have any question for Tobias and Daniel. Yeah, feel free to just unmute yourself. And okay, there's one question on the chat from John. How do you charge for your service?
We have basically contact us is the answer to that.
Got it.
And great question. And I think particularly if you have footage in 12 labs, I think we can add a lot of value.
Okay, another question from Simon. How many customers do you have today?
We're growing with our design partners right now. So we have let's say fewer than 10 customers who are we're actively iterating on the product with and really trying to make it quite good and getting to the point where they really like it.
Awesome. Yeah, I have one question about the design. So how do like in the suggest features, what was the mechanism behind that? Like, how did you come up with the suggested, videos?
Yeah, so for the suggest features, it's everything is using, we only have one index right now, which is Pegasus, the search one. And the way we're doing the recommendations is we parse the transcript of the video and then use OpenAI to sort of generate topic suggestions from that transcript, or basically to generate a list of search queries. And we chose to do it that way so that we could have fewer indexes, and it seemed to work okay. And I think where we would like to grow this in the future is to have something a little more sophisticated, maybe either also using an additional index like Marengo, where we can start generating queries from the video, to be a little more sophisticated about it. But for now, we just take the video transcript and use that to generate a list of like relevant search queries.
Got it. And how did you get the transcription? I guess from the video.
Yeah, so the transcription, everything's through 12 Labs, because 12 Labs just does it well, and you get it for free once you do the indexing. So you can, and I guess to answer your other question, how long does it take? Yeah, roughly, the things you have to wait for are the upload time, which depends on your bandwidth. If you have high resolution video, we can like squish it down for you so the upload doesn't take so long. And then roughly a third of the video time, keeping in mind there's also a little parallelism that happens because 12 Labs can scale and can index more than one video at a time. So for any given video, it's about a third. But if you're uploading 10 videos, it'll be faster than that to do the indexing. And then once it's indexed, we get all the stuff 12 Labs does for free, which is transcript, thumbnails, streaming, which we don't really need for this case, but if we did, we'd have it, and search, of course.
Yeah, maybe another question from my end is, I think Tobias showcased the filtering option. How did you come up with those confidence scores and decide decide metadata for the suggested videos?
So an issue, as you know, 12 Labs, when it returns search results, it returns a confidence level for each search result, which is cool. And so in an earlier version, we just had high, medium, low, which is what 12 Labs gives back to us. We had an issue in some cases where there was like a lot of high results, like more than 50 of them. We hit the page limit. And it was a problem for our users because it was like too much to look at for them. And because when 12 Labs finds the confidence level, it's really just how good of a match is it. It's not necessarily how good of a clip it is. So we needed some way to visualize like how many good clips are there. And if you wanted a little more refined control, like you were just like, hey, okay, I've got 50 clips in the high level. That's just too many. How can I like dial that back a little bit? This is like this is our UX for that. So if you're sort of like, I just don't want so much stuff, but I don't quite know what I want because I don't know what's in this footage yet, you can like slide it around a little bit and try to be a little more refined. Yeah, because like 12 Labs also like searches the entire index, and sometimes you need to filter that down to something a little more targeted for what you're actually looking for.
Awesome. Maybe another question is what's something you're working on your roadmap? Oh yeah, to improve the existing plugin.
I got a question after you, James.
Yeah, go ahead. After that,
you know me. It'll be quick.
Yeah.
Have you tried so if you have a lot of results that are coming back, I know you've done stuff to pare that down, but have you ever thought about giving users options to be like which ones they prefer and then having that direct, so it's not like RLHF or anything like that, but it's like, you know, it's pretty easy for them to get like a selection and then choose like a subset of those that they like the most and then have that be matched to now pare it down the high confidence ones that they actually want.
We have talked about, and just haven't built yet, some stuff where you could just sort of click through in the user interface and like select the ones that you like out of the 50, so they don't all get dumped on the timeline yet. Some stuff we've brainstormed a little bit and don't quite know how to do is like some sort of like negative prompt would be pretty powerful if we could do it. For example, you know, I have a database of footage where I have some archival footage from the 1960s. It's all black and white, and like everything else is in color. And I might want to filter out all my black and white footage. If we had like some negative prompt ability or some way to do that, we could filter that out. So we've thought about maybe some creative ways we could solve that problem, but we haven't really come up with a good solution yet. And I think it's something we're looking to do. And I think the stuff we're looking for on the looking to do on the roadmap is to make it give you a little more control over what you can search for. If there's like a subset of the uploaded video that you're interested in, how do you like narrow down to that subset?
Great.
Yeah.
And I noticed on I think on your documentation that you guys also building the desktop app, right?
Yeah. So the desktop app primarily the value of it is for upload. Premiere is great at editing. It is not great at file management or asynchronous background tasks. You know, one of the things we were struggling with us and also with some of our clients, it was like uploading video, especially through Premiere, was really hard. So we wanted to have a nice user interface where if you have a bunch of video files on your desktop, you can get them uploaded to 12 Labs. Because like especially for a lot of products that were just starting out, like this is a big blocker. Like the search looks amazing and you really want to use it, but you're like, how am I going to get the video up there? And so we're trying to like reduce the friction at that point, and we have a desktop app where you can just give it a batch of files and sort of let it run in the background and get everything indexed.
Perfect. Yeah, I think this is like super valuable for sure. Yeah, perhaps the final question is right now most of the use cases is on like traditional video editing, right? Like footage of like films, sports, you know, public domain, etc. Did you see like more demand or like more interest from some of your users on like certain verticals in, you know, type of video, maybe that they try on the plugin?
Yeah, it's interesting in a broad variety of domains. You know, for advertisements, for example, like showing products, if you have a lot of footage there, documentaries, some storytelling and archival stuff. So I think anything where you have just a high shooting ratio, like the amount of footage you have is much larger than the amount of footage you need. That's kind of our sweet spot.
Great. Awesome. And then final question before we move on to the second presentation. Simon had a question on the chat. How do you feel about the new intelligent visual search features offered by Adobe Premiere?
Good for Adobe for recognizing there was a problem here and there's some technology. I have it running in the beta. They haven't shipped it yet. It's not that good, and I mean, like the issues I think with that wonderful thing that they're building are that the search results are not comparable to 12 Labs because they are not putting the same amount of compute at it. And they don't have, for example, the ability to like insert from the beginning and end of a clip, which is kind of very important for what most people are doing. So it's interesting, and we're certainly going to track it over the next year. But I think at this point, it's not quite going to solve the problem in the same way for most people.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for your perspective on that one.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So if you have feel free to put like links or relevant resources on SeekSequence on the chat for attendees to follow up, and maybe they should try it out after the webinar ends. And with that, Thienthang also here. So Daniel, do you guys want to go ahead and start your presentation?
Fantastic. Hello. Thank you, James, for putting this together. And I had actually heard about SeekSequence. We have a friend who joined our Jockey 12 Labs presentation where we did a technical deep dive into that, was inspired to go create his own company, and actually found out that it already exists and is now working with SeekSequence. And he told us about this because he saw our presentation and was like, wait a second, I know those guys. So very exciting to see that you're making this happen. We really think one of the most exciting things about where we are in this space, not just with 12 Labs and video, but everywhere, all the things that are happening, is you can take an idea and turn it into reality very quickly. So we love to see that happen. 12 Labs, obviously, for video understanding, there's kind of nothing like that. It's extremely powerful, very easy to use, but the ability to turn that into a product is something that's really an untapped, unrealized opportunity. So we want to see people do more things like this. And that's one of the reasons that we got excited about putting together SaddleStack. There's so many different components that have to come together to make this happen. You have neocloud providers allowing infrastructure, all of the environment configuration and management, spinning this up. And you understand, I'm sure, with SeekSequence, having to serve this new product. There's obviously this modern approach. We have all these different tools and technologies, and they have to come together to provide something valuable. And even the new products that we're having, where it's just text to web app or something like that. Again, there's so many things that have to happen to eventually make a production service or something that's differentiating, and we wanted to provide a foundation to allow that to happen. And the way that came together for us was through public sessions that we do. The Brainwave Collective is really a new type of business model. We're trying to bring people together to learn about these technologies, to build with new technologies. And ultimately, we're doing that not just as a club or something where we're thinking it's interesting to discover these things, but something that we can actually then go off and make products and be successful together. So brand new type of cooperative model that we're exploring. It's member owned, which is novel as well. And it was during one of our public meetings that we looked at 12 Labs before a hackathon last year. We looked at Jockey. We looked at NVIDIA's AI Workbench. And after one of those meetings, Thienthang and I sat down and we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we brought all of these things together? Like, now that we have these new technologies, what if we actually did something with it? And that's where SaddleStack came together. And we competed in the hackathon. Took us 10 days to become a finalist, another 2 months to put together our winning submission, and almost another month to get it to the point where we felt comfortable releasing this as an entire open source stack. So it's everything that you need. It starts with not even having any infrastructure available, all the way to having a fully functional application that plugs into the backend that you've provided, that service that you've provided through this process. So without anything else, I'll hand this off to Thienthang, who will give us a deep dive into all the things. She'll explain all the details. But thanks for showing us SeekSequence, and thanks for coming today to see what we have to show off.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So 1 second as I get that up. And I essentially just wanted to give you kind of a quick overview of what SaddleStack is, and then also to give you like a quick demo as well. So Thank you for your patience here. Let me just. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Good. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So first, we're just going to talk about a brief overview of what is SaddleStack. So as Daniel mentioned, this was a hackathon project that we both came up with for the Hack AI Dell and NVIDIA hackathon. And we kind of just wanted to give some numbers out there that out of 4,600 participants, we were able to make honorable mention with this. So we were the top 27. So we were super excited about this. And this project essentially just provides a unified development experience that allows users to explore AI agents. Specifically, SaddleStack is a video agent, edits and processes videos using natural language commands. And we used a lot of different services, a lot of different technologies that kind of just came together for this project. So I'll just quickly talk about the different ones. There's NVIDIA AI Workbench, which essentially is a development environment manager. It helps you to manage containers, environments, and configurations. There's 12 Labs and Jockey, which, as you all know, it's video understanding as well as multi-agent video curation. OpenAI for the language, LangGraph, which helps you to coordinate the different LLM calls, manage the conversation in context. React was our front-end app and front-end UI that allows you to connect to the Jockey server that you spin up. And then Shadeform allows you to spin up a cloud GPU in case you need harder compute power. So now I kind of just wanted to breeze through and provide a really, really quick demo to kind of show you how easy the process and the setup is. You can go from absolutely nothing to having a full stack app within about 6 minutes, which is pretty fast. So the first step is to create cloud GPU and to create a cloud GPU instance. And so technically with this project as it is right now, this isn't a super necessary step. However, if you're trying to scale up, you want to use a ton more videos, you want to have a lot more storage, this might be a necessary step in the future. So we wanted to find something that was very good at integrating with NVIDIA AI Workbench. And we played around with different providers and we found that Shadeform is a marketplace that we really liked, that was easy to spin up a GPU instance and it works seamlessly. So here it provides 20 plus different cloud providers from NVIDIA, HyperStack, several others. After spinning up that remote, that GPU instance, you can then clone our repo from GitHub locally, and then you can navigate to the .env file. So within this file, it's where you essentially put all of your different secrets, your API keys. There's a section for your server IP address, which allows you to connect to that GPU instance you created. There's Langsmith, 12 Labs. There's also a prerequisite where you have to create SSH keys as well to kind of connect everything together. So this is where it has you specify it. The next step then is to run the management scripts that we created within our repo. And so this is just essentially just executing a few lines of code. It's very straightforward, very fast, but we wanted to highlight the power that came with the script. It does all of these things within this list that you see here. It loads all the environmental variables from that .env file. It checks for required API keys. It verifies SSH keys. It promotes or it prompts for server details and handles all the GitHub credentials. It logs everything. It downloads and executes an installation script from GitHub, and then it connects everything locally and remotely, and then also sets up your project directory and dependencies. And so this was all stuff that Daniel and I did manually when we first started. We were running into a lot of dead ends. We were going down a lot of rabbit holes. It was just figuring out how to do this within NVIDIA AI Workbench was difficult just because there wasn't that much documentation. So we decided to just create this really quick and easy management script so that it's fast for us to set up, and it's also fast for others to set up who might not, have all of the knowledge of doing all of this stuff. So I kind of just wanted to show you just that process very quickly. I took a screen capture, and it's just very fast and easy.
We don't have audio, so if you want to talk over it.
Oh, sorry. I like hear the audio in the back. So here it's sorry, I feel like let it just okay. This works better. Okay, so essentially all you have to do is you have to run this script here. It's called configure remote. And then it prompts you to put in all your different SSH keys, the private keys, as well as your GitHub usernames. And then from there, you just press enter, and it's running this very quick and easy script. And it takes like less than 30 seconds to essentially do everything in that list that you saw. Yeah, that's the management script section. Awesome. So then once you run that management script, you should have everything then configured within your local environment as well as your remote environment. And so within that, you can open up that NVIDIA AI Workbench manager. And we created this easy to use toggle here. So all you have to do is click on this toggle, and then it goes ahead and spins up and then deploys your very own Jockey server. From there, we created a script that you can run, and then that easily launches the UI we built as well that connects to the server. And so here I just wanted to give a quick demo on how that works. It's a bummer that there's no audio that you all can hear because there's like some background music that we wanted to showcase, but that's totally fine. But essentially, this is the app here. And this is where you put in that.
Just one thing, I think you still on the slide of the video.
Oh, interesting. That's strange.
For us, it looks like it's paused right after enter the name of your server key.
Oh, okay.
Confirm
How
that.
do you unpause this? Oh, resume. Okay, sorry about that.
There you go. And if you want to share your audio, you can. I think Zoom have an option for you to share audio.
Yeah, it's all good. I can kind of just talk through it. So this is what I was kind of trying to show here. So this is where there's that Jockey server toggle that you could just easily just switch on, and then it spins up that Jockey server for you. And then this is our UI on the bottom right. You can see the screen now, right? Okay, cool. And then here I wanted to show just a demo of the UI. So this text box here is where you prompt Jockey, ask create a video of whatever you want from the video footage. And then here is where you put in that 12 Labs Jockey index ID so that it references the correct footage. And so when we were testing this app, what we ended up doing was we used hours and hours of Tour de France videos, and we wanted to see if it could cut up the video for us and work correctly. So I kind of just want to show this. So here I'm just prompting it, create this 2-scene video of one of the bikers here, and the first scene we want to see him racing towards the finish line, and the second scene we want to see him on the winner's podium. And then if there was audio, you would hear this like background epic film music, but unfortunately you'll have to play around with our app in order to test this out. But we just wanted to show you kind of, I'm just going to fast forward this because it's a little bit of processing. And then from there, I can show you what the end output looks like. So here you can see he's biking towards the finish line. And then there's him on the podium. Awesome. So yeah, so that's the quick demo. And now I kind of just wanted to take a step back and just talk about why does this even matter? What was our vision for this? So going into this, Daniel and I, we didn't really want to, like, our purpose was not to build the most flashiest, the most coolest, the most sleek app. Really, we wanted to be able to make something that would allow people to get started with modern AI app development, even if they didn't really know where to start or they didn't have the correct knowledge. So all of this stuff is open source, and we wanted to create a good starting point for experimentation. So our vision is for people to just get in there and maybe even like tear down the different components, create their own components, but we wanted a good starting point for that. This is a fully integrated system where we do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So that's all from spinning up hardware to downloading a different service, to configuring the environment, making the remote and the local stuff work together. But essentially, with our management scripts, we were able to simplify it and abstract the complexity of it. And something like this, building a full stack application, it can take a lot of time, right? And it can be very costly, but our purpose was to make this automatic as well as cost efficient. And really our purpose here at the end of the day, we wanted to make it so that any developer can just really play around with something and push what's possible in video AI or even AI in general. So that is our project, and I'm gonna bounce back to Daniel.
Amazing. Thank you, Thienthanh. So as Thienthanh showed you, we really wanted to make something that had steps that were just really straightforward and approachable. So the idea is you just go and set up your prerequisites, you get your API keys for all the related services, you upload your videos to 12 Labs, and then you just plug everything in a configuration file, run a script to take care of all the things, and then you're ready to go. And it really is that simple. I will caveat to say the 6 minutes is once you have everything established, so if you can go get your keys and spin up hardware in 6 minutes, we'll be really impressed. But it really can be less than 10 minutes for anyone here to actually create their first video using all of this complete infrastructure and framework, the app and everything else that's totally yours. So put it in place, go explore. And if you do have any issues with the open source, let us know. We did an event earlier this week, and we learned a couple of things. For example, some versions of Mac install a much older version of Bash, and we had an array function that wasn't available yet. So we're going to update that. We found a couple minor things. So if you run into any issues, submit an issue and I'll get in there and we'll actually support this and try to get this working. If you have any problems, we think it's very robust for what it is, and we think it's ready to go. And we would encourage anyone to go give it a try and go explore. We have a lot of scaffolding in place that will allow you to take this a little bit farther. The front end, for example, there's a fast API backend that manages everything. We have WebSockets for Jockey. So even though it's not interactive, for example, you could add that in. We've had lots of conversations about what if you could control this through voice. There's, the ability to extend that as well. So whatever you could kind of envision for what this might be, we really want this to be a foundation that allows anyone who's really interested in exploring, to take this to the next level. So if you've got ideas, if you want to launch your own company, if you want to explore your own application, this is a foundation that you can use as a starting point to jump off and explore the things. We don't think it'll do everything, but it certainly is a great reference for anyone who's scrappy and wants to get out and figure out how these things work. But yeah, if you don't have hardware, it doesn't matter. You can spin that up, install everything. We think for machine learning engineers who maybe have much more powerful heavy lifting, NVIDIA's AI Workbench offers some really interesting solutions for that. So we think this lets you see what that looks like if you want to expand your deep learning solution and expand that into an actual application. You can kind of see how that all plugs in. Of course, there's the infrastructure. We mentioned the neo cloud providers. We use instances from Shadeform that are between 15 and 40 cents an hour. So even if you're just getting in there and tinkering around, you're not going to have a big bill unless you forget to shut it down. Again, that front end full stack app that has that extensible backend and all those pieces. So we really think it's a great foundation for exploration. We'd love to hear other people come back to us and say, hey, this launched me into this trajectory that I now have my own company, whatever that is. And if you do get to that point where you need some support there, definitely think about joining the Brainwave Collective, because we want to help support people to grow as well. And we want this to be our path to retirement. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Thienthanh, for giving us an overview of all the details. And of course, James and 12 Labs, thank you for having us.
Awesome. Yeah. We appreciate your time talking about the project and the details and the demo. From that attendees, any question for Daniel and Thienthanh?
Yeah, happy to answer any questions, dig into any details. Can be high level, conceptual, we can go technical, whatever interests people here.
Maybe one question from my end is any particular reason for going with Shadeform as the GPU option?
Yeah, I think the short version is there are lots of providers out there that are helpful. There's reasons for this project, particularly NVIDIA's AI Workbench requires a specific type of environment, and Shadeform by default in most cases is using that setup. It's not universal, but it was something that was pretty good. What we were doing as we were exploring these different providers was, sometimes there's a $5 minimum, a $20 minimum. And if you're bouncing around to 3 or 4 or 5 providers, you've got these small balances that kind of remain scattered around. And that was just really annoying. And I probably have $15 here and there that I don't even remember of providers that are out there. But Shadeform gives you access to all of those same providers. So it's a single point of entry to explore lots of different things. They also have API control over those services. So, we're envisioning even setting up these instances and configuring all of that can actually be done through API configuration. So really powerful scripting opportunities there for automation of these workflows. And we were just really happy with how well it all worked, and it just made it easy for us. So we thought we'd pick one to go with for the recommendation, and we can default some usernames and things like that to make it a little bit easier. But honestly, this will plug into any provider that's out there, and there's lots of good ones. So
throughout the experience of working on this project from end to end, what part is the most time consuming topics to navigate?
I mean, we had just getting AI Workbench in place. We had 2 days where we spent 3 hours each day and 6 or 7 people both of those days, and it doesn't get as far as the script does in a minute and a half. So that was really painful. Converting Jockey into something that could run as a service on a server, in a robust kind of way, took a little bit of work. Thienthanh, I don't know, were there other areas that were challenging?
Yeah, I think it really has more to do with the NVIDIA AI Workbench environment itself, because actually between me and Daniel, we had built like 5 UIs for this app, just because we built one in like React, we built one in, I forgot what else we built it in, but we just couldn't get it to like connect to the server. We just kept having a lot of issues. So I think that took us like a long time as well, like maybe, I don't know, a week.
Shoehorning our solution into somebody else's solution, is always challenging.
It was tough because there really was not that much documentation out there for us with NVIDIA AI Workbench. So there were just so many different bugs and things that we had to just tinker around with, and yeah,
we definitely learned a lot.
Yeah.
I think the general concept of the whole idea, I mean, we spent weeks just trying to get our brain around how we wanted to put this all together, because these are components that aren't necessarily designed to be integrated, and getting a system established is always a challenge.
For sure. And so it sounds like the challenge here is like that backend, front end dependencies, right? When you try to create a front end with React, for instance, it must follow the same like code formatting from the backend output. Like how do you stream, you know, the Jockey respond back to the front end in a way that that works, that functionable, right?
Exactly. Yes. So, we have WebSockets for that control, but we use server-side events to update the front end. So, that's a great example of something where, we have to make some design decisions. We have to have that scaffolding in place that will support all of those things, and getting them well integrated. Yes, it is, a lot of rakes to step on to get something like that in place.
Okay. Any feedback between the two of you for Jockey itself? Like what are some of the cool features that you think it can be built on top of Jockey, and or anything that it can improve, like any specific like processing time, or like the way it was designed that can be optimized.
I'll sing its praises quickly around the idea of an agentic framework that allows you to kind of get started with these things. I think it's very interesting that this was released, what, 6, 7, 8 months ago, something like that. And we're now just starting to talk about the year of agents. Hugging Face came out with small agents, and they have this very lightweight framework, and they're suggesting that this is kind of the approach. And I think that Jockey, at least conceptually, is kind of already in that space, right? So it's a little bit ahead of the curve in the sense of it has that established understanding that is kind of at the epicenter of what I would consider to be leading thinking around agentic implementation. Of course, it is very early, and it is something that's pioneering, and you're going to expect that there's going to be a little bit of friction in getting that all going. But I understand there have been new releases of Jockey that we have not yet had a chance to go back and integrate. So that's something that I think we would want to do.
Yep.
But as far as a framework that allows you to do these types of things, I mean, I think of the presentation we just saw with SeekSequence, the ability to extend that so it's not drag and drop, but you're actually using Jockey to manage those aspects for you. It's possible to see that be implemented. So I think the opportunities around changes to me would be, just making it more approachable. I mean, I think that's a key theme for things that we're trying to do. Maybe making it, a little more modular in the sense that someone who's less, you have to spend less time really digging into it and understanding the details. But that's just something that comes with maturity. And I think Jockey has that foundation that's necessary to get there.
Awesome. And just to follow up on that note, we'll release a new version of Jockey with a new UI front end, probably by mid-February. So I think super excited to have you guys be like early tester for that project, and provide recommendation for forward, and downstream application that can be accomplished with with Jockey, and of course like the backend code will be updated in open source as well. So we're running. Go ahead.
I was just going to quickly say along those lines, if anybody has any questions or wants to dig into this further, we're very accessible and willing to support this. So don't hesitate.
Awesome. Right. Thanks, guy. Daniel asked how to reach you. Probably
how to reach out to us. All right. So the easiest thing to do for the Brainwave Collective is to send an email to subscribe@brainwavecollective.ai. You can also email me directly, Daniel@brainwavecollective.ai. And I'll add LinkedIn here so that you can connect. And I'm sure Thienthanh will be happy to share hers as well. We'll drop that in the chat.
Yeah, we had QR codes. Should I quickly share that, or?
Yeah, if you can pull that up, that's go for it, and people can grab it on their
Unless
phone.
I already exited. Yeah, actually, yeah, sorry. I'll just put my link in because I think I might have exited the PowerPoint presentation already. Really quick. quickly. I will grab. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. It's LinkedIn. Would love to chat. I cannot.
I just dumped them in at the end of the presentation, but I'll.
Okay.
So we dropped our LinkedIn's here. I suppose I could share. But yeah, that's definitely the easiest thing to do. There we go. Well, yeah, we would welcome anyone to come join us and ask us, any questions. We'll do what we can to support these things.
Great. Yeah, I think this is useful as well because, for the people watching on via YouTube, they can take a look at this and actually scan the QR code. It's a little bit hanging for like a couple of seconds.
Very good.
Anyway, yeah, thanks again for the presentation. Recording of this session will be available probably like within 2 or 3 days. I'll be sharing the link for the speakers so they can get access to that. Yeah, thanks again for taking the time to present today. And yeah, just a reminder, we run this webinar series on a weekly basis. Pranay actually has been here many times, so he's a familiar face. Yeah, so if you found this kind of content, informative, interesting, yeah, please sign up and continue to support, different awareness community initiative from 12 Labs. Yeah, with that, thanks everyone for attending, and hope you have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye. Thanks.